Hi, this is Beth from Around the Table Yarns. Tonight is part 2 of Sock Club, the Little Boxes Socks by Summer Lee. We're excited to be working on these fun summer shorties. This is my first finished one. Here's my camera. There's my camera. This was a fun sock to do, and I really enjoyed the stranded color work. I was using both hands. I do have a little bit of laddering down my side because I also did it in Magic Loop. And when you do a turn, see that little lump? When you do a turn in Magic Loop on stranded color work, I think there can be a tendency to pull it too tight, which is what I did here. So I was at a retreat this weekend and somebody suggested to me a fix for that. And so I'm going to share a little bit about that. And then what we're going to do, this was an afterthought heel. So the heel and toe are identical. And since they are identical, I'm going to show you how to do the heel. And then we'll be done with this sock. The new sock is called Proudfoot, and it's by, and I thought I had it right here. Well, more on that later because I'll bring it up and show you. But Proudfoot is it can be a multicolor sock. It can use up lots of little ends, but it is also meant to be a rainbow sock if you want it to be. Maeve, my manager and color consultant, put together 2 Sweet Georgia colorways that include 12 different colors. One is a very saturated classic rainbow colorway, and one is a very desaturated non-traditional rainbow colorway, and they're both gorgeous. And we're going to kit them up, and I'm going to make my sample out of the desaturated one, but we're going to have the saturated and the desaturated kits available, I hope, before the end of this week. So keep an eye out for that. And again, the name of the sock that we're doing is called Proudfoot. We were looking at it more closely this morning, and what was really exciting is that it's done in a slip stitch rib throughout. And there's lots of ends because she does it in like 13 different colors, but the slip stitch rib gives you a place to tuck your ends in so that you don't have to weave them all in. And it's like, oh, it also has, yeah. It's a really fun looking heel. So very excited about that. That is not going to happen in September. There will not be a sock club in September. Sock club will be resuming in October, and we will have 2 meetings in October and 1 in November for the Proudfoot sock. And I'll have more information for that up on the website shortly, in addition to a link for the pattern, a link for the kit when we have it, and all of that. Okay, let's get started. So here is my in-process sock. This is my line for picking up and doing the afterthought heel. But I just want to talk briefly about a technique that can help you if you're suffering from the dreaded laddering. And let's see if I can get the shadow off of my. Oh, look at that. It worked. Light. Maybe too much light. It's a little too neon. Okay, so the technique that somebody suggested to me, and I've heard of it before, but it is to work in the round inside out. And the reason for that is if you're working in the round inside out, your strands have to go a little bit more distance around the points where you're turning, and that can create a little bit looser edge. So I think I changed about here, and I feel like there's sort of a divot up to about here, and then going from here up, it's a little bit less of a divot underneath And the only thing to keep in mind with that, you're still working on the right side. When you're knitting, you're still facing the right side. It's just on the other side of the work. So like the wrong side of the work is facing me or is nearest to me. The needle with the right side of the work is the further needle. And so when I'm transitioning at the edge, I push the back needle in. My working yarn is in front. I'm holding it in both hands. So I just take my strands into my two hands and start working. So you can see how that has a longer distance to go around the outside of that turn. And that's what can help it not have such a ladder at the edge. So I thought that was a nice technique and worth sharing and worth sort of demonstrating. As you can see, there's nothing different about how I'm working this half of the row round. I'm just knitting it as usual, but I have the front half that I'm not working on. So it's just a little bit different from how I normally do something in the round. But this is an excellent way to increase the floats that you're having behind your work. It's an excellent way to do that without having to change anything else about your technique. It just automatically makes the floats a little bit longer because they have to travel a little bit further. And when you turn the sock right side out again, then you'll have that little extra bit of float going on. I'm going to mute you guys. Hold, please. I mute my. I hear background noise that I think is coming from.
I'm going to mute.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. Don't worry about unmuting if you have a question. So I'm just getting to the end of that, and then we're going to go ahead and pick up for that's not the right color. Pick up for my heel. I don't want to leave it in the middle of my row. Round. Side. Okay. So to do the other side, I'm going to just hold these on this needle for the time being. The easiest way to make, so this is not the easy way to turn it right side out. You don't want to go from the cuff end. You want to turn it right side out from the end that's nearest to the needles. Ask me how I know. Tuck in all these tails. And now I've got my so there's my yarn that I'm going to do my heel in. I'm wearing my other needle. I was wearing my other needle. So I just have a second needle of the same size handy. Trying to see if it zooms. All right. So we've done this fancy afterthought heel or forethought heel placement. And the pattern asks you to pick up one more stitch on either side of your afterthought heel. And you can do that in the first row, but you can also do it right now. And so I'm going to go one stitch over. So I'm following the yellow, and this yellow here is the other stitch to the right of this one. So just looking at my green stitches here, this V is the first stitch of my waste yarn. And I'm looking at the V below it, which is yellow. So normally I would pick up that as the first stitch of my afterthought heel unzipping. But what I'm suggesting is we pick up one stitch to the right of that, and then also one stitch to the left. And it's the right leg of the V that I'm picking up. So it starts with yellow, and then I'm going to continue, oops, slid right out. I'm going to continue picking up the right leg all the way across. And I'm kind of going in and out with all of these stitches, picking up the right leg of the stitch below the green stitch that is my zipped up waste yarn. Be careful when you do it. It's not hard to get into the waste yarn itself, but you really only want to pick up the leg of the actual sock yarn. I keep my finger here so they don't slide off, and I can use that to sort of pull them back a little as I go inching along. Spread them out a little bit. This camera does not like to stay in focus, does it? Split your stitches. So I get all the way to the other end. There's my last one. And so I want to pick up one more stitch on the far side. So now I've picked up one extra stitch. Now, one of my participants this morning said that she just pulled her needle out and then did the other side from here. I was like, how did you see it? And she said, it took me 3 times. So I would like to suggest that you can, because she had me check it and it was perfect, but it took her 3 times to do it. I would like to suggest that you rotate so that you're working again from right to left. I just think it's easier if you can do that. So I'm pulling it over a little bit. And again, I'm going to find, now this time it's a half a stitch here. So I'm going to go to the right hand side of that half stitch to pick up my first leg. And then I kind of have to dig it out a little bit, because this one, it's a little buried. There, I'm pulling that up a little, and you can see the 2 legs when I pull up. So I'm going to hold that with my finger so I can get under the correct leg. So that was a little harder to find. And the reason I knew that I wasn't looking at the correct leg is because it was yellow on that side. So it should be yellow on this side, and it wasn't. So you want to make sure you're getting the right leg of the stitch below the V. Focus. and then we continue across. I feel like I should have Jeopardy music going do 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 do. At least the dog's not barking. So this is something I would do with good light, the right glasses on, when you're not exhausted. I picked up my knitting this morning for working on it in class, and this knitting, and I had done a whole row with stitches in the wrong place, color work in the wrong place. I'd gone to bed last night at 9:30. Obviously not early enough. As you do this, it's pretty tight to pick up these stitches. I do recommend that you use a circular needle and have the other stitches on a cable. If you're using double pointed needles instead of a circular, the thickness of the needle can make it hard to pick up the other half. So even if you like using double pointed needles, you might consider using a circular just for this part of it. All right, so I'm coming to the end. I'm going to pick up that last one, and then I'm going to pick up one more. And I'm going to transfer those again to the needle, so I have a little bit more flexibility. My waste yarn was not in there. It's not secured. I didn't weave in the ends. So I should be able to just pick it out. I'm going to use a darning needle to do that. I'm going to go right to the very end. And with the tip of my darning needle, I'm just going to pull the waste yarn away from the stitches. If the tail is so long that it kind of pulls or trying to think where my scissors are. They're here. We got moved around. So I don't want to keep this waste yarn for anything later. So I'm going to cut it short. I'm not going to cut it right at the stitches, but I'm going to cut it short enough so that it makes it easier to pick out. And I'll keep trimming it as I go in case it gets stuck. I didn't use a very smooth waste yarn. I've got one that's got a little alpaca in it, so it's being a little fuzzy. So I'm just going right onto the green yarn and pulling it with my needle. And again, once you get a couple of inches of the waste yarn out, trim it so that you can keep going easily. As you go, keep an eye on the stitches and make sure that they're all on. You should see them all resting on the cable or the needle that you have holding them. This can be a little fiddly. I mean, there's 30 stitches to take out, but it is a very tidy way to do a heel. And it allows you to continue working straight on a project that otherwise you'd have to stop and maybe take into consideration your patterning and do some thinking. So what I like about doing an afterthought heel and something like this is you just get to keep going with your pattern and really, really make that look nice without worrying about interrupting it with the heel. It's nice when you're using a self-striping yarn to have an afterthought heel because the heel itself is done in the round like the toe. And so the afterthought heel becomes like a bullseye or an oval. And I like how that looks a lot in the bottom of a sock. Sometimes when I do a heel flap and the self-striping or the self-patterning yarn is, going vertically on the object, to me, it doesn't look quite as nice as when it can go in the round. And so that's one of the reasons I really like an afterthought heel. I know that some people feel like an afterthought heel is not wide enough or not deep enough for their foot. And the way that I understand that you can alter that is to pick up more stitches. In other words, have a few extra stitches on this side. And the way to do that would be when you're setting in the afterthought heel to pick up a few more before you turn and a few more after you turn. So maybe 3 or 4 stitches on each side to increase the depth of the heel. Another way that you can increase the depth of the heel is to do your decreases, the decreases I'm about to start. After an extra round or two. So instead of doing it every other round, you could do it every 3rd or 4th round. That might look weird, but you could play around with it. Okay, so now I've picked up all of the stitches. And I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to turn it again. I'm going to tuck my other needles in so they're kind of out of my way. Since they're wanting to stab me. Tuck them to the back. There we go. So now we'll rejoin the yarn for the heel, the contrast color for the heel, and start working on those decreases. I believe in the pattern she has you do several rounds before you start decreasing. And I did not do that. Yeah, she has you work 4 rounds even. I did not do that in my other sock, so I'm not going to do it on this one, but I do recommend following the pattern. And that can also help deepen the heel. I did try this on the recipient and they were happy with it, so I think I'm okay. Leave a tail long enough to weave in, and you just start to go around. Okay. To this side, and we're just going to turn. And continue on to the other side. Then I will have all my stitches reattached and worked with the contrast colors. And I'll be ready to start decreasing from my heel. So oops. All right. Any questions about this technique? Any problems that you had? Any suggestions for people who might be doing it? We're all busy working.
I really like how you picked up the extra stitch in the process of picking up the legs of all the stitches as you go along. I didn't do that.
It's the first time I've ever done it.
I like
Thought
it.
of it this morning and I was like, hey, I think it works.
'Cause you can see it very well. Like you can see like how you followed that yellow. That was really good.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think it makes a difference if you can sort of get it out of the, because before I used to pick it up as I was joining my contrast color, and it's like, why can't I just pick this up in the row? So thanks.
I did pick it up in the row when I did it. And one other thing that I did, not on these socks, but on another pair that I just finished making, was an instruction that came on a different sock, but it said that as you're knitting the first round, if you think you're going to have a hole there, if you pick up the stitch, the ladder of the stitch between the two stitches, and you knit that through the back loop together with the next stitch, it really closes it up nice.
Well, that's a good piece of advice. So, yes, I think that, and then the other thing is leave a tail long enough to darn any hole closed.
Of course, yeah.
One of our students this morning, or club members this morning, was talking about that she did it several times and she couldn't get the hole to close, and I was like, just darn it. just use those tails and get rid of those holes, because that's, I mean, you have to get rid of the tails anyway, so they might as well go to good purpose. I was really pleased with this pattern. I think it's a fun pattern. I had one person who did it without the patterning at all. She was like, I didn't like it. I was like, okay, that's fine. So let's go ahead and look at the pattern for the next one. Yes.
One thing I did on the heel, I used Roxanne Richardson's guide for doing the heel so that it wouldn't have so much volume to it. So you didn't see the two.
What pattern did she use that in? I'll bring it up on Ravelry.
I don't know. It's just, I found it on YouTube. It was just Roxanne Richardson's. So you wouldn't have the two rows sticking out. You kind of hid them in the.
Hold on, Janet, hang on one second. I'm gonna pin you. All right, show it.
So you see the how do I say, in your, you know how you have on your toe, you have these two.
The ears?
The ear, well, no, not the ears, but the bulky sides here.
Mm-hmm.
She has a way that you make them not be so bulky in the heel so they don't stick out.
Lift it up a little bit. You're off the camera. Oh. And that's
they don't-
that's a YouTube.
Roxanne Richardson, I think was her name. And the other thing I presented to Kathy and Gusty was, I can't remember her name. You hide the bunny ears on the Kitchener stitch. Mary something. See if I can find it on my.
It's Marley Bird.
Thank you,
Marley
Margaret.
Bird.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and Patty Lyons has one too.
Yeah.
And they're pretty similar, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So you
the-
don't put those ears on the Kitchener stitch.
So Marley Bird,
Yeah.
Patty Lyons,
And Roxanne Richardson.
and Roxanne Richardson, it's to keep the heel from being too bulky.
Yeah. So what you do is, you know, when you do slip, slip, stitch,
Yes.
you on the second stitch, you come in behind it
Oh,
Oh.
and move it to the other needle, and then do your
so you
stitch.
turn it.
Yep, yep. You twist it and that. So that's what she does. So it was just something different to try. Yeah.
Well, that's very helpful. So, share my screen. Let's see if I can. Can you see this?
Mm-hmm.
So if I click on it, do you still see it?
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Roxanne Richardson.
shush.
And I,
No talking.
Yeah.
So she has a knitting channel, and can you tell me which of these it is? Do you remember? She's got quite a few things.
Let me look on my phone. Maybe I might have just deleted it though. I can't remember.
Oh, I like this, baking a shorter needle. Flipping out wrong side on the outside. So we just did that. There's sock heels. Was it that one?
Yeah, it might have been. Like what isn't this called a peasant heel?
Take action. American Express business
I
plan.
think it had to do with a peasant heel.
Just gold bond.
Oh my goodness.
It's clinically safe.
If I remember, it's Roxanne Richardson's peasant heel or something. Roxanne
Okay. Let's see.
peasant.
So she's got sock heels, knitting in the round, sock basics.
Oh, alternative decreases for a great looking peasant heel, it's called.
Okay. Alternative
hi, I'm
decreases.
Roxanne Richardson. And
Shh,
I,
she has to stop talking.
Or a great looking peasant heel.
Is that in the short row peasant and plain, or is it its own?
It's its own,
Let's.
alternative decreases for great looking peasant heel. Not to make it too wordy, but for great looking peasant heel.
There it is.
Yeah.
So alternative decreases for a great looking peasant heel as recommended by our own Janet Reuter. Thank you. So if you're watching this on YouTube, there's another YouTube thing that you can go watch to get even more information. All right. I'm going to go to Ravelry. And the name of the new pattern is Proudfoot. I think I showed it last time. I want to show you this photo, which shows you the ends being woven in to the slip stitch rib. So that's what the sock looks like on the outside, but on the inside, or it looks like that. On the inside, all of those ends are being run down these channels to keep them tidy and out of the way and not bulky. And I think that's just a great way to utilize construction to solve a problem. We're going to do a gradient, not just too dissimilar from this one. I think there's less white in ours. The name of the designer is Rue Meeks Johnson. So that's the pattern that we're going to be going to. And again, I'm going to have the link to this and the dates of it and the a link to our kit will be up on the Sock Club page. I'll have this video up, and then we'll have a link to this one on the Sock Club page itself by the end, probably by the end of this week. Okay. Back to us. So that was not a huge long demonstration today. I hope it was useful. I hope it wasn't too out of focus. I am struggling with my document camera not having a good focus on it. I've got two and they don't, I was asked to bring the good one to the shop. So now I have this one and it doesn't seem to like to focus as well. Were you guys able to see okay? Okay. Hopefully if you blow it up enough. So I hope you're enjoying did you finish both of them? Has everybody finished both of them? Let's see. I'm going to remove the pin. Go back to, okay. Oh, wow. Look how cute that looks. I love the pink and white and blue. That's adorable. Oh,
That's great.
fun. Oh, you hardly need me. So did you have some laddering? Oh, wait, here, unmute. You're all muted.
I did. I had a little bit, but you know, it kind of came out with
The block?
I mean, I don't really hard block socks, but when I got them wet and I kind of pushed it around a little bit, it came out fine. I mean, I've even worn them once, so.
Oh,
Yeah.
Janet, show your heel. Because that's exactly what I was talking about in terms, no, put your finger in it so you can like the base of it. Because it's like a little bullseye around.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's got corners on their heel, but
Yeah, very nice.
it looks
Pretty.
lovely. All righty. You guys are fabulous. Thank you so much for participating. And there goes my dog rolling around on the couch. I'll see you in a couple months. The dates for, I should know them off the top of my, head, shouldn't I?
No.
The dates for Sock Club in October are the 2nd and the 30th.
Perfect.
And that will be the Proudfoot sock. And I'm
Great.
hoping to talk to Rue Meeks Johnson and maybe having her come on to the Zoom and maybe talk about the heel. Maybe we'll get her to come on and do the heel.
Oh, cool.
Great.
We'll see what she's up for, if she's up for any of it. But she did have a nice response to my, could we please use her pattern?
That's
Great.
nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. It's been rainy here in Northern Ohio. Yeah, I've got nods. So
Yeah. I just texted Gusty because we just had this like tornado like storm come through here. That's why I went off a little bit. Oh my gosh, scary.
Yeah,
There's
we've
just
been
a lot
having it bad all day. Yeah.
it's
our
been
first,
just
but it feels a lot
torrential.
cooler.
Torrential rains. Is it the beginning of hurricane season? Is that what's going on?
Well, I'm up in Pittsburgh now. I'm in Pittsburgh in the summer and Florida in the winter. So, but hurricane season is going to start any minute now
And
down in
yeah,
Florida.
it's,
So,
it's August. I think hurricanes are
yep.
starting to brew.
Yep, they are.
Well, they said the whole East Coast is getting it, so.
Yeah.
Well, we've just, they can have it.
Yeah,
Did it
You know,
cool?
the noise that you heard too was my husband's watching the news and I guess people that work in Washington DC all got sent home from work today. All government offices closed because the weather was supposed to be so bad.
Huh.
Which when I lived in DC, we never got sent home from work.
I know. What's up with that?
Anyway.
Cool off for you guys? Did it get cooler though? Because it feels cooler here now, finally.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's 73. So yeah, it did cool off. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
all
Well,
right.
Beth, get some sleep.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going right to bed. Thanks so
Welcome
much.
back, Janet. Yeah.
Bye,
Okay.
guys.
See you
See ya.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.